In Ukraine's eastern Zaporizhia region, the tranquil morning was abruptly disrupted. A Russian armored spearhead consisting of 50 main battle tanks and 70 armored personnel carriers surged forth from the seized airfield near Melitopol, advancing towards a forward base deep within Ukrainian territory. The 2.1-mile convoy transported over 600 troops, along with thousands of pounds of ammunition and fuel sufficient for a 10-day offensive aimed at Dnipro. This was not merely an assault. It represented a strategic maneuver that posed a threat to millions. In mere seconds, the tranquility would be shattered, and the ensuing events would serve as a lesson in contemporary warfare. Beneath the streets of Dnipro, in a fortified underground command center, Ukraine's Southern Defense Command was already mobilizing. Just minutes prior, satellite imagery and forward UAV feeds had confirmed the impending disaster. A 2.1-mile Russian armored convoy was taking shape, moving in tight formation towards a captured forward base. General Mykola Havino, the sector commander, scrutinized the live projection. Over 100 armored vehicles, accompanied by supply trucks, were advancing at nearly 18 miles per hour. Should they reach the base, the position could transform into an impregnable fortress, capable of launching strikes into 3 Ukrainian regions within hours. There was no room for discussion. Engage them immediately. Prevent them from establishing a foothold, Havino commanded, his voice resonating through the dimly lit room. Officers sprang into action, establishing secure communication channels across air, ground, and artillery units. The operation would unfold in meticulously timed phases. Initially, reconnaissance drones would survey every tank, every APC, and every fuel truck. Subsequently, swarms of low-cost suicide drones would disrupt the convoy's formation and sow chaos before the enemy could respond. Finally, airborne flying mines would target any defensive positions. Gunfire erupted. Following that, rapid motorcycle assault teams would cut through the flanks and rear. Ultimately, mechanized infantry would tighten the noose, ensuring that no one could escape. Every minute was crucial. The convoy resembled a steel serpent, yet in the war room, its destiny was already being orchestrated. A trap was meticulously designed to collapse in flawless sequence. The counterattack clock had commenced its countdown. From the moment General Havino issued the command, the first phase was activated. Out on makeshift airstrips concealed within wheat fields, 20 low-altitude reconnaissance UAVs, each no larger than a dining room table, ascended into the early morning mist. Their electric motors emitted a soft hum, barely audible over the wind rustling through the grass as they glided just 15 to 20 feet above the ground to evade Russian radar sweeps. Each drone was equipped with a high-resolution thermal optic and an encrypted live feed transmitter, relaying real-time imagery directly back to the underground command center. On the large wall display, the shape of the convoy began to materialize. Dark thermal silhouettes of tanks and armored personnel carriers snaked along the asphalt, flanked by fuel trucks and ammunition haulers. The scale was astonishing. Over 2 meters of steel and firepower advancing steadily at 18 miles per hour. Operators began tagging targets with practiced accuracy. Red markers blinked over the lead command vehicle, a specially modified T-90M outfitted with additional communications equipment. Blue icons highlighted fuel carriers, each transporting nearly 4,800 gallons of diesel, sufficient to sustain the offensive for several days. Yellow circles indicated mobile artillery batteries concealed among the BMP-3 second. Their 100mm guns were poised to bombard Ukrainian positions once within range. Inside the command center, the atmosphere grew tense like a taut bowstring. Officers communicated in terse tones, relaying grid coordinates to strike units preparing for the next phase. On one side of the room, a young UAV operator manipulated a joystick, locking a drone's camera onto a moving supply truck. On the opposite side, target IDs were identified based on intercepted radio chatter. Each icon displayed on the screen represented a critical decision regarding which target to engage first, which to prioritize, and which to reserve for subsequent forces. As time progressed, the convoy advanced closer to the forward base. Pavlenko leaned over the main console, his gaze fixed on the expanding network of target markers. "We do not have a second opportunity," he stated softly. "When we strike, it must be decisive." Above the fields, the 20 drones maintained their silent watch, maneuvering between tree lines and low ridges. The steel serpent was now completely exposed, every link of its armored structure clearly defined. In the war room, the trap was tightening. Phase 2 was on the verge of being activated. Once the last reconnaissance drone completed its mapping of the convoy, the strike order was issued. In less than 4 minutes, 80 suicide drones, each approximately the size of a motorcycle, ascended from concealed launch racks situated along the tree lines to the north of the Russian column. They flew low and swiftly, skimming across the fields at nearly 90 miles per hour, maintaining an altitude of just 15 feet to evade detection by enemy radar. These were not standard NATO equipment. Most have been constructed in clandestine workshops for less than $4,000 each, yet each was equipped with a 26-pound shaped charge warhead capable of penetrating over 2 feet of rolled armor steel. At 6:32 a.m., the Russian forward gunners finally detected them, a flicker of movement against the wheat. Then, a multitude of dark shapes surged forward. Defensive fire erupted chaotically. 30mm autocannon rounds burst from BMPs. 3-second belts of 7.62mm tracers were fired from mounted PKMs, and the dull thud of grenades was launched blindly toward the horizon, but the swarm was too extensive and too imminent. The first drone collided with the lead BMP-3, exploding in a blinding flash. The explosion overturned the 18-ton vehicle onto its side, obstructing half the road. 3 additional drones targeted a cluster of Ural trucks, which were transporting over 5,000 mortar. Ukraine war updates. The resulting explosion created a fireball that generated a rolling shock wave across a 650-foot stretch of the column, destroying tires, tearing off armor plating, and resulting in the deaths or injuries of numerous troops within seconds. Following this, Phase 2 commenced with 40 flying mines, modified quadcopters, each equipped with a 21 pounds TM-62 anti-tank mine attached beneath its structure. They advanced at a slow speed of just 20 miles per hour, intentionally provoking Russian gunners. The instant a bullet impacted the mine casing, the pressure fuse activated, resulting in an airburst that scattered razor-sharp shrapnel over a 100-foot radius. One explosion annihilated an entire rifle platoon entrenched in roadside cover. Another decimated a group of RPG gunners before they had the chance to reload. The psychological impact was immediate. Tank crews deserted their vehicles, fearing they were about to be targeted by artillery. APC drivers veered into irrigation ditches or reversed recklessly into other vehicles. Supply trucks jackknifed across the road, spilling crates of ammunition into the dust. From the Ukrainian command center, the live thermal feeds narrated the events. The steel serpent had been broken. Smoke and flames dotted the length of the convoy. Vehicles remained ablaze in place, and the previously steady advance had come to a disordered standstill. Phase 1 of the assault had achieved its objective. The enemy was disoriented, bleeding, and dispersed. Now the battlefield was set for the next strike. The roar of engines was already increasing from the south. The sounds of the drone strikes were still reverberating across the fields when a new, sharper noise pierced through the smoke. The high-pitched wail of motorcycle engines. From behind a low earthen ridge, 200 armed dirt bikes surged into view, spreading out across the open terrain like a torrent of steel and dust. Each bike carried 2 soldiers, a driver concentrating solely on speed and maneuverability, and a gunner equipped with either an RPG-26, a wire-guided anti-tank missile, or a laser-guided system capable of penetrating over 30 inches of armor. They immediately divided into 3 attack formations.